It's kind of
Well,
weird.
how observant, because I just was there and didn't
Well, I
know.
guess we should just go ahead and call the meeting to order then, since we're sort of getting started here.
I got to start on something. Sorry.
No, that was good.
So let's call to order the October 2017 meeting of the Visual Resources Review Board for the town of Farragut. The first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from the August 22nd meeting, as we did not have an in-person meeting in September. Is there any conversation, discussion about the minutes from August?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
What about ORNL? Was all that resolved, Mr. Shipley?
In L,
3B,
which one?
3B,
3B?
B. Is that on? Can you hear? On the
Yeah,
minutes?
I mean, he hadn't proceeded with it yet, but, I mean,
It's everything's up, okay. That's all I
that was
had.
all the conditions that they were. And they have over at Parkside Drive, and that, it does pretty nice looking sign.
Okay, any further discussion on the minutes? All right, do we have a motion?
A motion to approve?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the next item on the agenda is the wall signs that have been approved from our August meeting up until now. Any discussion on the wall signs that are listed here that have previously been approved?
I noticed they don't have the one up at O'Reilly that faces Thornton Drive. I'm not sure why they haven't put that up, but,
And for what she said, none of them are up now, so.
yeah, it's weird.
Took the front one off, too.
Huh.
They
They're-
were redoing both sides.
It could be that they're putting those gooseneck lights in, because that's supposed to be externally illuminated.
Why would it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
Or something.
There's quite a few wall signs. Of course, that's usually the case if we don't have a meeting. Usually quite a few between 2 months, but I don't have any comments on any of the other ones.
All right. Any further discussion on those? All right, we'll move on to item 3, ground-mounted sign applications. And the first one is the Autumn Care 3 Assisted Care Living Facility on Heron Road.
Do we have the people in the audience from now?
I think I included in your
Maybe
packet
not.
the rendering of the sign without the address numbers. We talked about, and we've done this before on some ground-mounted signs where a property fronts on 2 public streets,
Yes.
but it accesses, maybe a lower traffic street like this in this case with Heron Road. We thought that having numbers on it might be confusing since the building fronts mostly on Campbell Station Road, and people might get confused and thinking it is 400 North Campbell Station Road, even if you had the word Heron Road there on it. So we recommended that they not put the address on the ground-mounted sign that faces Campbell Station Road, and then instead just have it at the entrance, maybe on one of the columns as you come into the property. I'm going to pass around a color swatch because some of the comments whenever I emailed this out to you all was making sure that there was good color contrast between the lettering and the background of the sign. And I know that Peter Fox here, he's the one that's going to be opening the Autumn Care 3. It's his project, so he could probably answer specific questions that y'all may have on this particular sign. But the staff would recommend approval subject to the standard verification of the setbacks. And in this case, the lighting too, because it's going to be externally illuminated, just making sure that that's not creating any glare. They may have to add some shielding to make sure that the light is directed only to the sign face area. So with those stipulations, the staff would recommend approval. I think when you look at that color palette that's going around, you'll see it's actually much better contrast than what it appears on the printout. And that's oftentimes the case. These things that get printed on copiers don't really end up showing the true colors as they might appear in the field. So, but again, if y'all have any questions, Peter's here to try to answer those. It's a nice looking sign personally. I like the design, and it looks kind of fitting with the area. It's, you know, residential mostly around there, and or institutional. And that sign looks certainly in keeping with that.
So the gold is going to be the lettering and the gray behind it.
I think that's right. Isn't that right, Peter?
And then this,
Yeah, I actually brought my designer wife, and then this is Nancy Neighbors with the sign company, so they're doing the colors and can address all that. I can address the lighting, we did order the ground lights from.
I'm sorry, sir. If you don't mind, we need you to come up to the podium to speak because it's all being aired, so nobody can hear you but us.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Peter Falk, Linksview Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm with Autumn Care 3 Assisted Living. To address the color palettes and things, I do have a designer and the sign company manufacturer here that can address those. Mark did mention about the ground lighting. We did order those from Modern Supply, and they did include the shield.
Okay.
the numbers.
Something I suspect on the lighting that will need to be verified
Yeah, yeah.
if you
I
haven't
think
already
he-
provided it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that is on the
understands.
plans, the fixture, and then I don't think the picture shown on the plans showed the shroud, but it did come with that feature from the supplier, and we did order it with that feature.
So now the wood that's going to hold the sign is not going to have the lettering on it, correct? The 400 Heron Road. Am I correct? There.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
so-
right, yeah.
So it's just going to be like, okay, like you see it right there, just the holding the sign, nothing up there.
As you go into the entrance off of Heron, there's a couple of columns that are off the road a little bit, and the numbers will be there for emergency service providers. So then that would correspond directly with that Heron Road location.
Is there some of that color on another part of the building? Why did you choose those two colors?
Yeah, I think that color does, the background color does match the building. Oh, I shouldn't be talking about colors. That's really not my thing. We can have Marie or Nancy probably address that. But the beams will all be stained. All the natural stained wood on the building will be the same stain. There are a few feature items over the windows. The portico is open beams that are stained, and then the sign will be the same to match. So
Okay.
all the natural woodworking will blend in with the
Blend in
total
with it.
property. And then the original plans did show the numbers on one of the
Right, it
bollards
did.
at the entrance. And so that was actually our original concept until we saw the sign code that required it on the sign. And obviously that is I appreciate the recommendation to have it the way it was originally designed. I think that would look much nicer. Thank you.
Can you read it?
Marie Falk, Linksview Drive, Knoxville. The color of the background is basically the color of the building that is on the, what do you call that? Not the stone, but the siding. But it's it's the same color, but that's deeper so that you can have that additional contrast with the gold.
And the brick right here, I was trying to.
It's the
read-
same stone as the
Same-
building.
Okay. Because you, thank you.
Okay. Looks like it's going to be a nice looking sign.
I think it is too.
About, did I
So it was another-
see landscaping around it? Has that been,
Of a landscape plan.
it's really hard to
Yeah.
read on
It's hard
here,
to
See
so.
there, it's pretty heavily landscaped, actually. Yeah, it is pretty tough to see on that image.
Yeah, it was really hard to read what the material is, but I suspect, as we've looked at this type of thing before, that it's material that'll be kind of low, so it doesn't obstruct the sign. This sign's going to be a little higher off the ground anyway, so.
It's stuff like hostas and rye, pretty low stuff. They do have a couple of some hydrangeas, but those will be around the edges, so they shouldn't block the sign face.
Okay. Yeah, in the printout we got, I just couldn't read any of that, so it's a little bit too small, but.
Yeah,
that
I
all
may have
sounds
to
good.
make those 11 by 17 in the future. So that is pretty.
Because he's telling you you get nervous.
Yeah, I need glasses or something, I guess.
But St. John wort, dwarf rose, some kind of rose, hosta. The hydrangeas, the tallest plants that are proposed, and those appear to be around the edges, and then the ryepe. All the other ones are pretty short.
Okay. Any further discussion on this sign or any more questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. You too.
The next items on the ground-mounted sign agenda are items that we've already taken a look at. I think in some cases, maybe these have already started to be installed, but we need to go through each one and provide approval. And if there's anything about them that we need to know tonight, new or different, we'll.
Be the same as what was emailed to you all. Clayton Bank is changing out to First Bank, so they're changing all their signage. Two of the wall-mounted signs that were shown earlier were for this location, because
Right.
it does front on the two public streets. And that's their proposed ground-mounted sign. It's 36 square feet. The sign is compliant with the setbacks for that size sign, so staff recommends approval of this sign face replacement.
Okay, as I said, this is one we previously looked at. Is there any further conversation on it? All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next one is AT&T, another one that we have previously looked at.
I
Looks
like
like
theirs.
they're changing once again. I think that's 2 or 3 times.
I think it is too.
Anything further on this sign?
Yeah, it is.
All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The next 3 we'll need to take individually, but they're all for pilot on Campbell, well, the first one's on Campbell Station Road. The canopy replacement signs, again, we've taken a look at this previously. Any further discussion on that one? And do we have a motion?
Motion.
We have a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed? The next is pilot on Kingston Pike for the 2 canopy replacement signs, also one that we've previously reviewed. Any further discussion on that one?
Looks so much better.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve? Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It actually looks better than the other one.
It does. It really does.
Shows up much better.
And then the pilot ground-mounted sign on
Easier to
Kingston
reach,
Pike,
too.
also one we've previously taken a look at. Any further discussion on it?
Motion to approve it.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a
Second.
second? A second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so we're going to move to the landscape plans. We have a new office building going in at the former Weigels at Kingston Pike, 12640.
This one we'll have to recommend postponement at this time. We had to postpone the site plan last Thursday night because they still have some pretty significant site-related items that they're trying to figure out how they're going to address them, like detention, stormwater detention, things like that could change the plan somewhat. So it probably would be better off looking at it once they make the site revisions and it gets through the planning commission. So hopefully that'll be next month.
Okay. So we need to have a motion to table this until a future meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be fine. That would be the recommendation.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion, we table to a future meeting once all of the site plan is worked out. Do we have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so that brings us to the other items on the agenda, which is the Tree City designation.
I'm just going to introduce this a little bit, and then I'll turn it over to our new planner, property maintenance, staff person, Zach Bonham. He started probably about a month ago or so. He is a ISA certified arborist, so we're glad to have that skill set on the town staff finally. And he's already helped me out a lot with some recommendations and things. This also kind of created the idea of us revisiting this Tree City designation. Tree City is a program through the Arbor Day Foundation out of Nebraska that, they basically have these standards that if a community can demonstrate and certify that they can meet certain standards, that they get recognized as a tree city. Most of the surrounding municipalities are tree cities. We should be one, and hopefully we will be one relatively soon. I think it would be great PR for the town. The stumbling block for us historically has been that standard one, or not standard one, but basically the being provided for $2 per capita, that is per resident, of our budget that's basically dedicated towards some kind of tree-related work or maintenance and things like that. So just being able to demonstrate that we can meet that, it's around $45,000 of our budget, that would be dedicated toward tree care. That could be things like mulching and pruning and planting new trees, the stuff we did out the interstate interchange, certainly the maintenance that we do on the traffic calming islands in Grigsby Chapel. And then, of course, having Zach on board, I think is we can, I'm sure, use some of his salary toward hopefully putting us clearly over the top on that financial commitment that we need to demonstrate in order to meet these 4 standards. I can turn it over to Zach, and he might just briefly go through the standards in a little bit more depth. And you can certainly, if you got any questions, either he or I, be happy to try to help you.
Zach Bonham, with the planner with the town of Farragut. So there's 4 standards to be a tree city. The first standard is to have a tree board or city department that's responsible for tree care and maintenance in the town. So, this board could be designated as the tree board, if that's something you would like to do. The second standard is to have a community tree care ordinance, which we already have. We would have to make some modifications. One of the modifications would have to be to designate a tree board to be legally responsible for the tree care and maintenance. Third standard is to have a community forestry program with the $2 per capita, and that can include, it's actually pretty broad what we can include in there. We could include contract work for tree removals, with city worker salaries, purchasing trees, watering, fertilizing, staking, mulching, pruning, equipment purchases, equipment rental, anything to do with the Arbor Day. There's a lot of a lot of things you can work in there. And then, you know, could hopefully put in my salary, or at least a good percentage of it, to help with that as well. And then there's just the Arbor Day observance, which I think you all have done that before, haven't you?
Yeah, we have off and on, not
Yeah, not
continuously, but
yeah.
yeah, we have done that. That shouldn't be a big deal.
What is the day? Is it who said that? It's,
What day?
okay, it's always on the same day regardless, right?
I think Arbor Day is just, you can proclaim it. I think each city can have actually a different
But
day.
national, okay,
They
yeah, that's what I
usually,
was thinking.
it's
that
usually in the spring.
Spring.
It's usually kind of, it depends on the town, because you want to be able to plant trees. So
So there's not a
Knox,
national day of Arbor Day?
I think Knoxville's is the last weekend in March.
It's close to the Dogwood. That's kind of, was
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, the Dogwood Festival. That's
Yeah,
what I thought.
it needs to be when the trees are kind of still dormant, so you can plant. Or, you know, you could just have any type of event for that, you know, plantings, or I've heard of races before, just like a 5K, and then you have a sign that says Arbor Day, and that just gets people out so they can see that. So people that wouldn't normally know what it is, just see it, and they know what Arbor Day is. So,
The state Arbor Day is the first Friday in March.
oh, the first Friday? Okay, I wasn't sure if it was different for different cities.
So you said state, not national, state, national. Yeah. Now, dogwoods were really big here, but because, like you said, we've talked about that before, so many of them have died. So, I mean, and maybe I'm a little confused on this. This has to do with not just businesses, but residential too, correct? I mean, I know Arbor is, but what you're planning on doing, what is the purpose, I guess, is what I'm trying to.
Of the Tree City, it's basically just so the city is seen as recognizing that urban forestry practices are important for the community.
Definitely through, like, all of the walking trails and all that, you guys have done a great job of picking that out, but a lot of so this is to get the residents involved too, correct? I mean, we go around with the businesses already and say, hey, you know, this one needs to be cut, or there for a while we were, oh my gosh, what was that, Bradford pear? Everybody had those
Yeah.
things and then had to end up cutting them down or something like that. So this will be something that we will get the community as well as the businesses involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Correct.
They'll be involved, but I don't think we're going to be dictating what people are allowed to plant in their
Right,
yards.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that, but I mean, just involved, meaning when he was talking about races or doing things to.
Workshops
It's kind
or
of,
something,
right,
yeah.
like the Dogwood Arts Fest or
Yeah.
the way it used to be. And so do you have any special like trees now? Because there for a while you had talked about the dogwoods being to where that they were problems with pests and.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be
something that
careful where
we
you
could-
plant dogwoods. I mean, most of the time they need some shade, a little bit of shade at least.
So
and,
that's a thing, pick
you wanna-
4 or 5, something that maybe that we can,
Yeah, for different plantings, there's different, we could pick
You know,
appropriate species.
Yeah, and we could have like community workshop as part of this tree board's responsibility to, have it targeted toward homeowners, and
exactly.
just informing them of proper plant selection
What would
maybe,
work
and
in
how
this
to
area.
properly prune trees that they may have on their properties, those kinds of education instead of the topping thing where people just
That-
come in and just indiscriminately, basically top a tree without any thought to its form or function. And, you know, trying to inform them of the difference between topping and properly pruning a tree back to the branch collar, you know, and things like that, and why it's a bad idea to top trees. A lot of people are just ignorant, really. I mean, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but
Well,
they
it's
just
like
think
people
it
that-
looks, there's a misnomer out there that if you cut it back severely, it'll flower back better the next year, and that's really not the case. But there's a lot of misinformation about that with crepe myrtles, for example, and Bradford pears, probably two of the more topped species that we have. But it's really not the case. If you top them, you're creating a lot of issues, and what comes back is usually suckers that are weaker and more susceptible to lots of, you know, issues, health-related issues. So
I don't know if you have a packet. A lot of communities, whenever someone comes in, they have like a welcoming packet or something like that, but that's another good thing for, a lot of people, you were talking about ignorant, it's a lot of people are not from this area, and
Yeah.
their knowledge of what grows wherever they are doesn't grow
that's true,
here.
yeah.
And so just a little, hey,
Yeah.
you know, that's a great
Yeah.
idea for.
And a lot of people
to let
like,
them know some of the things that that they could plant.
Yeah.
One major question that I have is, we're talking about money. I understand we have to spend at least $2 per capita here. What benefit does this truly bring to us? I mean, I've seen the sign out there, Tree City, Alcoa, Tree City, Knoxville, so on and so forth. What benefit is it really going to bring to us? That's the main question. Where are we going to see a return on the investment, other than just healthy trees?
Yeah, well, it's basically, it's saying that you value urban forestry, and there is a lot of value in that. You know, the money that you put into trees, it's going to grow. That's going to be an investment that grows over time, more so than a lot of other things you do to the infrastructure. That's going to grow. You know, there's all sorts of benefits to that. There's, you know, the shade, energy savings, stormwater retention, wildlife. It makes it a more desirable location to be in. And that's just showing that you value those concepts.
Okay.
So that's,
I understand that. I see the positives for
Yeah.
having trees and having nature trails and everything else. I get that. But where is it, us being designated as a tree city, is it going to be able for us to open a door for federal or state funding in order to receive assistance if we're going to do a revamp of something? Or is it just going to sit on our shoulders fiscally, and then we have to figure out something else? That's just my question here.
It would definitely be
I feel-
something that you could use in grants that would help you
Right.
with certain types of grants, especially those that might be related to low impact development. Plus our community, and we have two aldermen here tonight, you know, we're trying to promote tourism and you know, market our community more intensely, and certainly we've always, as a community, had valued trees. I mean, I'd say Farragut values trees more than anybody around us, and it's somewhat ironic that we're not a tree city, because we've had landscaping requirements that the city and really nobody around us has to the level that we have. The tree protection ordinance, a few places around here have that. We obviously have an interest in what trees provide to our community. So this is just another step in demonstrating the town's commitment to recognizing the importance of trees and how they add value to our community. So
The thing that I see your point definitely, but one of the big things is like businesses, there's so many that want to plant, and actually there's one that I needed to ask this one question about the St. John's wort, since you're so good at this. Is it not invasive? That I was, okay, well, anyway,
that's true.
a lot of the businesses, I don't know how many times that they've planted something and they've had to, there's a problem. It's either, it's not the right fit a lot of times. Remember
Yeah.
Yeah, Cracker Barrel was one of the ones that we,
Yeah.
yeah. So that costs them money. And my thing is, the biggest thing I see is just knowledge and education. I guess it's the reason, educating the businesses and the residents as to what's good to plant.
Yeah,
So
I
that
agree.
part's the only thing,
Have that utility
to where
line
it would say,
arboretum.
because I've had to dig up, I don't have any plants because I put it down thinking it's great, and then it turns out to be, I've learned by stupidity, it's hard work of doing it and then have to pull it back up, so just.
Again, it was simply a fiscal question. I mean, I understand it, I get it, but
But I
I want to
understand your-
see where
The money
where
goes.
the bring in from that comes, and it's just
Right.
might be.
I mean, we really don't have anything to lose because we're already spending that money anyway. It's just a matter of accounting for it.
Don't want to
and-
waste it.
Right, and that's
exactly.
where I'm
Absolutely.
coming from, because I hear equipment rental, equipment purchase. Okay, is this giving
This is already-
giving
they
a
already
future
have it.
green light?
But we
to
already
something?
do that
We already
anyway.
do that, so it's already,
We're just not
it's just
taking
added
advantage
to.
of it. Yeah,
But the
that's a good
knowledge is
question.
my key. I mean, we can talk about it all we want to, but unless you get people involved in doing stuff, it's just, that's my
I see
big
the
thing.
educational component as being really.
Absolutely.
I don't know if people show up, but I
Well,
mean,
like
just
the runs, you can come up with, like you were talking, which one of you were talking about a run, do things to where, have that month, since it's the 1st of March, have that entire month, almost like the Dollywood, have our own little thing.
like Jerry Martin when he was chairman of this board. I don't know if any of y'all were on the board when
I
he was
wasn't.
here, but he always said the most important ordinance that we have in the town is our landscaping ordinance for the future. And he's probably right,
Yeah.
because
Sorry, let me ask you a question. In the first paragraph after standard 4 at the very bottom, it says, this is due to the fact that unlike other municipalities, we don't have a tree limb pickup, nor to this point arborist, which now we have. Is there any plans for that tree limb pickup or leaf
Point.
pickup in the future for
we
town of Farragut?
we discussed that a couple of years ago, but I
Great
think we
point.
just didn't. It didn't make the numbers just didn't make sense at that time.
Does this dig-
Mulching, something to where that we can do it and you have mulching days or something to where if you're not going to pick it up, that we could bring it somewhere.
Does this designation help that cause at all to get
Good point.
the leaf pickup or the limb pickup?
Is it required? Is
Not
that a
required.
requirement?
There's several ways you can demonstrate the $2 per capita. I just noted it as that's how some of the local municipalities.
Well, the leaf pickup is something I know I'd be interested in, and I'm sure lots of people would, because I'm bagging it and hauling it off somewhere
Yeah.
now.
Mow it. It's great for your grass.
I've got a lot of trees.
Well, that could be.
You have something to add, Alderman?
Yes.
Pavlin?
Louise Pavlin, 12830 Stall Drive. This is something that, when I saw this come across, I was really excited to see. We are about to attend National League of Cities City Summit in November. And one of the workshops I'm going to be attending, and I specifically signed up to it once I saw this, was rooted something trees in the city in Charlotte. They have a 50%, they have a goal for 50% canopy coverage by 2050. We currently, our tree planting, the tree planting plan we have for public properties is more or less tied more to our trails and our sidewalks. I want to see our roads tree lined. We have recently expanded the requirement for the distance between the street and the sidewalk or walking trail to be at least 6 feet on our collectors, is that correct?
Well, we're going to bring that up at the planning commission next month to add that to the local street standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the goal is to be able to plant trees along our streets.
More space, yeah, for
I would
tree
like to
planting.
see more of our streets, particularly the ones that Union Road is one of the ones that we're working on right now. If we take our time and do Union Road right, it could be an asset to our town. The road is quite beautiful now. We're going to lose all those trees. The goal is that when we go back and repair Union Road, that we replant trees, that we have an inviting walk system where people want to walk because there's shade. Trees also, although the studies are kind of inconclusive, a tree cover helps to slow down traffic, and we all know that we could use anything to slow down traffic in Farragut. It will add to the beauty of our town, and that is something we're going to be competing against Hardin Valley for a lot of our residents. What they're moving here for is the beauty of our town, the streets and the sidewalks and walking trails. I want to see as many of those tree-lined as possible. I think the Tree City gives us a protocol that we have to follow. It gives us some requirements that help us make sure that we are staying on top of it. I love the idea of an Arbor Day run. I love the idea of having some educational opportunities for us to understand what are the native trees to here that are going to thrive, what is considered invasive so we can avoid doing that. What kind of diseases are you going to see? What should we avoid? What can we kind of overcome? We have, I really embrace this idea. I think that this is the direction of Farragut to continue to set us apart from other areas is this dedication to this landscaping and the trees. And I think this would be an asset to us. I think we're spending well beyond, 22,600 people. So we're looking at, $45,000, which I'm sure we're probably already spending in tree care if we care to pull that out of our, how we're doing our line items. So I think I really support this idea. I've been itching to get into our planting plan and maybe look at our tree protection ordinance and update both of those, and this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
What about, like she had talked about the streets, are you going to have it to where that the streets are going to be the same tree all in?
No, I wouldn't ever recommend
Or
that.
just a specific, have you thought about that? Like what trees?
The
what,
problem
you know,
with that
because-
is the same problem we're seeing with green ash trees on Parkside Drive, is that if you rely too much on one species,
Then
then
it will
something
fully die.
happens, it gets a disease,
Yep.
then they're all dying, they're all going to have to be replaced on Parkside Drive,
That
and
is a
some of our
question.
parks have them.
And
like
that gets
over at
back to what
McPhee.
you said, you know, so
A mixture, at least in my opinion,
Yeah.
of different species. Maybe you might have some of the same in a continuous row, but within the longer street section, you probably want to have several different
So
species.
that's something that you guys need to consider, because that sounds great, but then like you said, one disease, boom, they're all gone, and there's all the money that you talked about. So it's not, it's, you know, there's some things to
Well,
think
like
about.
Louise was talking about, the local street grass strip standard has always historically been 3 feet, and
Yeah.
that's just simply not nearly enough to provide for tree planting. So what we're going to be bringing before the Planning Commission in November is to widen that to at least 6 feet.
Really?
So that it would have, that's the same standard as our collector streets, grass strip width. So that does give you enough, even though that's a little tight, but
It
that's
would
still enough space to have most shade trees. I mean, I probably
Should it not
wouldn't.
be like 8?
Well, we could talk with the commission about that, but that's, you know,
Pushed it back pretty far.
You're dead.
8's what the arterial street standard is. Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions about the process. So we talked about the standards, but what is the application process? Who's the designating body that designates us as a tree city, and is this something that has to be renewed annually?
Very good.
So the state forester would have to sign off on the application. There's just an online application. So I've got a copy of it. So you basically just go over all those standards. And like I said earlier, we'd have to modify the ordinance to designate a tree board. There might be a few other small changes we'd have to make, but it shouldn't be a big issue there.
So once you've completed the application, it's signed off by the State Forestry Board.
Yeah,
What
I'd have to get in
what's
touch
the
with them.
designating body?
It's the Tennessee State Urban Forester.
And they're the ones that designates us as a tree city. Okay. And is it something that's done annually, or do you do it once and you're good, or?
I'm not sure about that,
Need to
to
check
be
on
honest. Yeah. It's
Is that
probably
correct?
an annual thing. If
I
had to
imagine
guess.
it's an annual thing
I would
because
think that we'd probably.
otherwise
think an
somebody could
annual?
just, need it 1 year, get the sign up, and then disregard the whole
I figured it'd
intent of
be
being in
3
the
years.
program. So I
For
think they would
some
want to
reason.
see every year what programs you're doing, when you did them, what you're spending.
I
You'd
think she's checking
re-verify
right
it.
now to see if it's 3.
That in-
I think is it 3? Would it, I don't know if
With
it's
that in
annual or
mind,
not.
we obviously want to position ourselves so that, the next time around, we meet that criteria without having to stretch.
Absolutely.
In other words, if Zach decides to move on or something else happens and we're relying on every dollar there,
Little buffer,
Then
way above 40.
we need to make sure we're covered, I guess.
45,000, yeah.
Right.
And
Otherwise,
also-
we've gone through a lot for 1 year or
Yeah,
whatever
it's a
the,
little more.
Kind of where
initial
are we
period
now
is.
in the budget and,
Yeah, I don't know.
knowing, kind of knowing going into this, how far over are we, or are we
Under.
kind of close? I mean, because I know we have a tree planning
Yeah.
plan, and obviously we do things like, I know that, like the interstate was budgeted in
Kind
for
of a
this year. Are there
one-time
other
thing.
projects?
But then we have to
like
maintain
those
it.
coming up?
Yeah.
And are there other things like that built in if it's 3 years? Are there projects
Yeah.
like that coming up each year, kind of planned for?
Yeah, I mean, we have an annual tree planting program, because we have a adopt a trees program where you dedicate a tree in the memory of someone, or, and then we also have replacement trees that we have to add back to town properties, that we contract out most of the time, unless it's just 1 or 2 trees. So we can count that, and that's a recurring annual expense. That's typically in the budget, it's about 8,000 just for that per year. And then all the stuff that the Public Works crew does that they could say is related to tree care, could be included. Now, how strict they are in auditing your numbers, I don't really know, but I think we could probably, I would think with the addition of Zach, which we wouldn't be able to count all of his salary, of course, just the percentage of time, for example, that he helps us administer this program would be a fair amount of time, to get it started and to keep it maintained and conduct all the training, coordinate all that. So, I mean, I'm guessing we'd probably be close to 60,000 by the time you tallied all that stuff together. But I mean, I'd be kind of surprised if we were really close
Okay.
with Zach's part of his
It's a pretty
salary.
broad. You can actually
pretty
include
broad.
a lot more than what you think on those expenses because they really want tree cities. They want more tree cities. So I think they'd encourage, if I worked with the forester, he'd be real encouraging with that.
Okay. So what's the process then from the town of Farragut standpoint to reach the point of being able to do the application? Do we need to do something tonight
think they're
that
going
says
to
we
it.
want to be that we want to take on tree board responsibilities on this board, or
Well, I
is there?
think that's something that we wanted to bring up to you all to see if you all were comfortable with being that designated entity.
I'm comfortable with it.
That's
It-
what we
I
do
think
almost
we
anyway.
are.
Sense.
I mean, it would be.
Is there something different that this committee would have to do for that?
Yeah, that's a good.
No, you
What's
might
the-
get into some of the technical stuff dealing with, you'd probably be expected to help out with maybe some of the workshops, if we have 2 or 3 workshops with homeowners or contractors or LCUB, or,
Right.
utility providers, just to work with them on trying to do things, maybe consider doing things a little different than maybe what they sometimes do,
Sounds like
it-
we're going to do a lot of the same thing we're already doing, but we can use
Still
it
be
toward that
reviewing the
designation.
landscape plans, and, the planning commission looks at the tree protection plans, and we just need to amend those plans those ordinances to formally designate you all as the tree board. And we may need to add some other language in there dealing with certain maintenance things that they want to see in the tree ordinance.
Would this have any impact on the vision planning that's going on for the town?
Adds to it.
I think it could. I think
I thought it kind of would go hand in hand.
I think it's good marketing for the town. I think it's, something that is, like I said earlier, we're trying to promote the town as a tourist designation in some manner. I think what we need to focus on is what we have always done well historically. And, landscaping, we've always done well historically. And we really haven't capitalized on that as much as we should. We haven't gotten the recognition that we probably should have. We're recognized by other municipalities for our ordinances, and the city of Knoxville I've gone and talked with them about our landscaping requirements, and they've always been like envious of what we have and what we've been able to enforce in this community. And this is just another step to demonstrate that we recognize trees as critically important. I think it's strategically important for us because it adds so much value in so many different ways that, you just look at parking lots, for example. You see a parking lot that's just devoid of trees, it's just all asphalt, and you look at one that's heavily landscaped like we have in the town. And, people are going to go to the one that looks more appealing, so that adds value to the community. That's just something that we need to take to another level and demonstrate that we want to recognize tree care as being critically important to the town, like we always have. We just haven't gotten recognition for it.
My biggest thing is, like I said, is to bring the residents. This is a community, and I want them to be involved. And just like Randy and Ed said, those guys, we need to think about having some couple, like in the fall, some place to where that you can bring the leaves, or like you were talking about. It's something that, like mulching, or like the tree limbs, or something like that we need to bring them involved, because you start doing stuff like that for the community, that helps bring them in.
Also, I know where I moved from, people would cut their trees down because they didn't want to have to deal with the maintenance.
The leaves,
Yeah, so the first thing they do, because one thing is, I bought a house in an older neighborhood because it has large mature trees on it. Now, most people think, oh my God, cut your trees down. It's a mess in the winter or the fall. But I love the trees, but it is a pain with,
So those are things that it's beautiful, but we need to bring them involved. We want to bring as many of the residents.
Very important part of it.
That's
As it
how
is now,
you
I
do
have to
that,
drive to
is
Oak
to do
Ridge to dump
something
it.
for the community, to where that the branches, and because I bought myself a little mulcher myself, so that because of and everybody's like, hey, it's used, because I hate throwing things. I want to like I said, we mow ours because we don't have that many, but when you get to the point where you are, you need something. And with the brush. And if we're there to help with the community, that's going to bring them, and they're going to be involved and want to know.
Yeah, I think
more.
there's a
And
lot
it's
of
not gonna be
opportunities
that
for
costly,
things we
you
could
know.
do.
It wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm like you. I'm cheap, and
The
I
town
want.
had a place that residents could take it, and the town mulches it and then sells off the mulch or
Exactly.
does something with the mulch.
Yeah,
But-
like
Absolutely.
Christmas trees or, yeah. or
Exactly.
Stuff like that, yeah.
So that
And that could be part of.
fall.
That could be.
That could
a
be a
I'm only
fall
2
thing.
truckloads
It can
to
be
Oak
a
Ridge to dump
Christmas
everything.
thing. It could
Yeah.
be in the spring because you start. So there's at least three times a year you could do that to where, you know, that they would
Yeah.
know that that's the day, and then have that. So this is a great opportunity to do,
Oh,
not just
absolutely.
with the
Well, that'll
knowledge
be.
and then doing things.
Well, I'll ask Zach to work on that. That'll be his.
Make sure that you find out if it's annually. Let us know because that's another. It is annually.
That makes sense. It. Yeah,
Every year.
makes sense. That's the way it
Sure.
should be.
I
Sure.
figured it would
Yeah,
be.
that's the way it
We've
should
been
be.
very fortunate in that, we see trash. And as long as you don't have huge.
Yeah, they'll
branches,
take certain size
They will
stuff.
pick those up.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, you can encourage the businesses like that
To
so
maybe
many times a year to
Yeah, that'd be
donate
great
their
public,
services to do that.
That would
Yeah.
be a great thing for them to where that they could get business. So work with the community,
Yeah.
the businesses.
And all that stuff could be part of this,
Perfect
yeah.
idea.
I just haven't had, frankly, time to work on it, but it's always been important to me. I mean, I really want, with Zach here, I really want to push this and get this through. Because I think it's something we should have done a long time ago.
So tonight, do you want us to have a motion or a vote on our desire to proceed
That'd be
as
fine,
becoming
yeah.
a tree city? And then, once we do that tonight, are there other boards and committees within the town that are also going to have to agree and concur with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, they'll have to concur in that there'll be some amendments to some of our ordinances that they'll have to vote on. Ultimately, I don't anticipate that either the planning commission or the board would have any issues with what we're trying to pursue here.
Okay.
Do
think
we
they're
need
very
to say that
supportive.
we would be willing to be the tree committee?
That's fine.
tonight?
Yeah, you can.
Let Marty do it.
Okay.
Get the hard stuff.
Well, is there any further discussion on it? If not, I'll make a motion that the Visual Resources Review Board would like to encourage the town of Farragut to amend ordinance throughout the town to designate the Visual Resources Review Board as one of its responsibilities as the tree board for purposes of monitoring tree activity in the town and becoming a certified tree city, and whether other actions necessary in order to further our efforts to become a designated tree city. Surely that's enough.
That's plenty to me. I just got you made a motion. I don't,
Perfect. I just like to talk.
sounded good to me.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
We got plenty of seconds. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? All right. Is there anything else? There's nothing else on the agenda. but
I
is
That's
it-
have a
it.
question.
That's it?
What about our meeting? Are we going to combine because of November and December, or are we going to have one in November and December? Have you looked
Do
at-
you all have a preference? I need to send out like some options for you to consider.
In the past, we've combined and had like
Yeah.
one like December the 5th or something like that. I mean, whatever, the Tuesday. What
Do
is
you
the
all have a
Tuesday?
preference, something
Right
early in
now, we're
December?
scheduled on November the 28th.
Right,
Yeah,
So
and it's right after Thanksgiving.
it's the week before. Yeah,
we would,
So it usually, when is
that'd be the week after Thanksgiving.
yeah.
Yeah, what's the next week?
Well, you'd have to look at the dates, the rooms available and all that
Yeah.
stuff, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's generally going to be available for y'all on the fourth Tuesday because that's a designated time. We could just plan on it being the fourth Tuesday since it is the week after Thanksgiving.
Okay, so
And if we'll
be
just
here
kind of
November
play
the
December by
28th?
ear. Yeah.
Okay,
One thing I do need to bring up, and I didn't mention it, is the Adopt a Stream program is being modified, and I know we have that section that we need to get out there and clean up sometime soon.
We did it last year.
You did?
Dwayne
Y'all do it
and I
last
were
year?
the only ones.
Okay.
And then Marty showed up after
Okay.
we'd finished, right? There was 2 or 3 of them.
Don't make it sound that way.
Oh, no, he had something to do, and he couldn't find us. That's the way it was.
We're already gone.
I may send out, and I need to find out from Lori about how they're structuring the program. I know they're changing it around a little bit, but just keep that in the back of your mind. We need to do that sometime. Normally, we do it in November, I think historically, when the stuff has died down a little
Like
bit.
October, November.
Not snaky
Yeah.
and stuff, yeah. So,
One more comment on the meetings too is that the December meeting is scheduled for December 26th.
no,
Which is probably
yeah, we
hard.
definitely won't have
That'll
that.
be a
After
hard
the
day
28th,
to
then
do,
we
so,
will-
We hopefully just won't have one in December.
Okay.
If we can, if it's not occupied, we may schedule it for the week before Christmas, that Tuesday.
But this is going to be,
Email.
I mean, the 28th,
Not
you
gonna
want to
work.
know,
Or just email.
Oh, yeah, we'll check, see.
perfect, just leave this one as it is for
Yeah.
November. Okay,
Go from
that's
there.
what we need to know.
Then I'll get with
And
y'all
then
on the adopt
let us know,
stream,
yeah.
see what to do with that.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, we'll adjourn. Until next time.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to believe the next time we're going to meet, Thanksgiving is going to be over.
I know.
Gosh.
Crazy.